Hi there, welcome back in to Take Two with Hawk. He's the Hawk, Dr. Brent Hawkins, Superintendent of Schools in Coppers Cove ISD. I'm Director of Communications Curtis Quillen. Dr. Hawkins, glad you're here with me. School's right around the corner.
Thank you, Curtis. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to serve the Bulldogs of Cove.
So we are recording this Monday, July 21st, 2025. This is getting published on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Full transparency on the date as we start here. And as we always do, let's start, Dr. Hawkins, with good things.
Well, I think we've got great things. Number one, I think that we've got some staff members that are going to get a well-deserved increase in pay. And, I know there's always a lot of questions about that, but, I'm very proud of that. I was in a district that was able to, for 11 years, to be very consistent with our salary recruitment and retention plan and salary instrument. I look forward to the challenges that lay ahead, but I think that was a great first step. I think we're in a great situation as far as the logistics of staffing goes. And no, we're not where we want to be. We'd like to tell you that we're fully staffed everywhere, which we're working on it. But I think that we can definitely close the ranks there. And we got kids that continue to do what they do. There's Bulldogs that represent us so well, singing of the national anthem at Fort Hood and the change of command over there that happened the other day. That's the thing we're here for, is to give kids opportunities to showcase their talents and skills.
Yeah, and that's one thing. If you were asking me good things, I think our relationship with the garrison at Fort Hood is better than it's been in a long time as a district. It was a joint choir. You can see some photos on Facebook, or you can go to ccisd.com/photos and see those kids in action there. But I think, that joint choir of SC Lee and Coppers Cove Junior Highs represented the district with class, and in a way where Cove was the only school district represented at that ceremony. And so we were really excited that, the new garrison commander, Colonel Mark McClellan, was able to see our best and our brightest, and they performed very, very well at that ceremony as well. You mentioned pay raises, and that came from last week's board meeting. So I just want to hit on that real quick. That's not one of the main things we're going to talk about in this episode today, but those pay raises. A lot of that social media sentiment was finally. The teacher scale goes up. Entry-level teachers are now starting at $56,000 versus $53,000 a year in the previous teacher pay scale, and then a 3% midpoint raise for everybody else who's not on that teacher pay scale.
Yeah, and I just say that, House Bill 2 was part of that, but I applaud the trustees because, there was mandated raises that went into the teacher pay scale. But we can't do business. We can't reach our vision. We can't even address the mission of what we do on a day-to-day basis without everybody. It takes everybody to take care of business in Cove. We've got custodians. We've got child nutrition workers. We've got nurses. We got security personnel. We got curriculum people. We've got paraprofessionals, secretaries, bus drivers, and on and on and on that we rely on to meet the needs of our kids. And those people were almost left out of it in totality from the legislature, and they wisely went back and give a pittance amount of money. But when you look at the increase there, it was the Board of Trustees that exceeded that to make that 3% for everyone else possible. And I'm glad they did because, there's no doubt what the power of a teacher is. But I've said a lot of times, I still remember my custodians through my school system by name. They were very important people in my life. And, Jean Stone was my elementary custodian, and Jean come back in high school. She was my high school custodian. Wanda Price was the lady that was a custodian there at the junior high. And, they were all a part, truly a part Every day it was kind of like, I saw them, conversated with them, and they were a part of that whole deal. And so when we talk about culture and what it is for our school system, everybody here is a part of that. And so they also need to be rewarded like everyone else. And the other thing is treated like everyone else, because at the end of the day, we're all servants trying to do the best we can to serve those students of ours and give them the opportunities that they deserve.
So that's the quick hit on last week's board meeting. That was the big item there, was those pay raises for teachers and for the rest of the staff in CCISD. Moving to facilities, this is something we've been updating every episode, where that long-range facilities planning committee is at this point. That committee recently met once again with GLS, the architect for the district. Where does the long-range facilities planning committee stand at this point, and what's next for it?
Well, I think it's not really where that committee stands. It's where our kids stand. And, they're standing at the bottom of a tall hill because we're behind on facilities. And, there's lots of factors for that. The board's been very conservative with what they've done over the years here in our school district to meet the needs of our kids. But we can't fund balance our way out of these problems. And, I had one parent tell me this, and I thought it was very much a salient point. And she said, Dr. Hawkins, if the school that I send my child to were a hotel, I wouldn't check in. I wouldn't spend the night there. And I thought that resonated a whole lot with me, because when I got here, people asked me, said, well, how's our facilities compared to your former district? Well, they don't in any shape, form, or fashion. Our facilities in Livingston passed a curriculum audit. Our facilities here do not meet that standard. And so we've got to step the standard up as facilities. Our students deserve facilities that they can go in and adequately meet their needs, whether it's programmatically or just out of a sense of fundamental fairness. We need kids to be able to sit down in the cafeteria. That's a safety thing. We need kids to be able to see the material. We've got poor lighting in places. We need to upgrade to align so that we can become a workforce training center for the next generation of Texans. We got a lot of things that we can do, but the kids of Cove definitely need a shot in the arm on that. So with that said, we did meet with our facility committee. Architect made their presentation, and they have went back to shore up some details in their plans and everything and get them ready. And I think that there'll be a presentation to the board in the next 30 days or so, that the board can kind of see what the input of our community was. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about me. It's about the kids of this school district and what they deserve. And I know that the community resoundingly said the same thing. And you got to remember that there was an open invitation for that committee. I put it out on Hawks Talk. I said it multiple times right here. If you want to be a member of the facility committee, please reach out to me. If we get too many, we'll put a waiting list on there and see how things go. Every member of the previous committee served or was offered an opportunity to serve. Whether they did or not, that was up to them. And then the campuses were able to nominate people. And so from those three pools, we came up with about 80 people. And that thing, as I've said, it's bounced from 50 to 80 throughout the course of that thing, and the investment and time and the planning and commitment that went into that. And so it's good to kind of be getting toward the end of that.
You mentioned we can't fund balance our way out of it. What the fund balance assignments were updated by the Board of Trustees last week as well as part of that process. That update is now, and keep in mind, TEA requires through its guidelines 3 months minimum operating expenses in your coffers to essentially cover any delayed payments from either the state, the county, whomever. So that would account about $30 million. And so that is what the updated assignment is. The last audited fund balance was just a hair over $76 million on a September 1 budget. That audit is approved in January, correct?
Correct.
And so just over $76 million, and it's like $76,046,000. So we're rounding it to 76. $30 million of unassigned fund balance. That is that 3 months operating expenses. $5 million assigned to budget amendments to cover needed repairs to Lee Ledger Auditorium, the roof at Coppers Cove High School, the elevator at SC Lee Junior High, and that the staff retention incentive that was approved by the trustees last fall that went out in December of 2024, that $1,500 check. $6 million has been assigned to offset the current fiscal year's budget deficit. The current fiscal year ends at the end of August. That's next month. $11 million has been assigned to cover district insurance deductibles. Why $11 million? Because the deductible is $1 million per facility, and there are 11 instructional campuses in the district. Then $7.5 million assigned to cover deferred maintenance expenses, $16.9 million assigned for new construction projects, $2.5 million assigned for needed renovations, and $1 million assigned for repairs to Williams Ledger Elementary School that we're going to discuss in depth next. So when you talk about fund balancing your way out of it, you're really only talking about having, let's see, 17.5 is 19.5.
Well, if you spin it all,
yeah,
you still don't get there.
No.
You know, if you just said, "Hey, TEA, go kick rocks," you still can't get there.
Yeah.
And so, there's no way in the future to use your M&O budget in order to drive anything that you feel is financially sound enough to get you there. And so, you know, there's at some point down the road, whether it's this November or next year or 5 years, there's going to have to be an improvement in those facilities. If not, the standard of education will erode away in Cove. And so, no, fund balance is great. It's wonderful that our trustees were fiscally responsible and was able to save those things back for days like we're dealing with Williams Ledger. But that is a part of a solution. It's not a solution in totality to get the kids up to the standard that they need to be educated adequately.
Okay. Anything else on facilities, Dr. Hawkins?
No, I just think that we'll continue to be transparent and forthcoming, and you know, I can't really predict the future as to, you know, at what point are we going to start addressing these things. But you know, I'll work with the board, and we'll start to bring some recommendations to them to start to look at some of these things a little bit closer. As you know, the last board meeting we hired a construction company,
right.
And so we've got an architect, we've got a construction company. And, you know, we're doing the things that we need to do to meet the goals that the board set out for me as superintendent.
And now on to, this is going to be a facilities heavy podcast, but this one is very, very different. I know we've talked about the B word from when you got hired, bond, and that's why we update on that long range facilities planning committee. This is going to be specific to one facility, and that's Williams Ledger. I'll set the stage, and then I'll turn it over to you. In June, we had, obviously, in the late spring, everybody in Coppers Cove and everybody in Central Texas was affected by a long list of hailstorms. My wife and I recently had to replace our roof because of a hailstorm at our home. And so, not unique in this situation that Williams Ledger was affected by a hailstorm. In June, that roof was inspected, and while working on procurement for those repairs, we got all of that rain over the 4th of July weekend, and it felt like the Bible. It felt like the Bible story with Noah and the Ark. 40 days and 40 nights of rain in that building. It flooded Williams Ledger, and the roof damage couldn't stop it. You've told the story in meetings that at one point, standing in there during a rainstorm, you couldn't tell that you were inside. We now we just figured out the logistics end of it, and this is where I want to turn it over to you. But Williams Ledger at this point is not a usable campus at the start of the school year.
Yeah, and you're citing the Bible, and I'm citing Forrest Gump. I just remember, Forrest said it was raining fat rain and skinny rain, and it rained every kind of rain. And you have to laugh to kind of keep from crying because, it was, I've had in my prayer those who've lost their lives and the 3 people who are still yet to be found in the floods there in Central Texas, and that was an absolute tragedy. And Mother Nature, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you want a job, and on that job you want to be able to be wrong and still keep your job, meteorology is a good field to go into, because at the end of the day, Mother Nature can do some things that we can't control. Mother Nature does some things that we can't anticipate or expect. And that's what happened in the hill country. And I tell people, my wife and I and my youngest child, we were down there 20 minutes from Kerrville. And we were going to the river. And it kept raining. And my kiddo says, Dad said, why don't we just come back? Maybe you'll get a Friday off in the month and we can come back later. And, that was probably God speaking to her in the back seat, because we were headed to the Guadalupe. And we got about 20 minutes from there, and we turned around and came back to Cove. And then y'all know what happened, and so similar things happen here. I mean, you've got the Lampasas River, you've got extreme damage with about 100 homes over in San Saba. And it was a real tough weather-related issue. And Williams Ledger is a school that's old as I've been out of school. I graduated in 1990 from high school, and that was the year that school was built. And so, we have old buildings, and that's the oldest. But what you have is, a roof about 20 years is kind of the life expectancy. And so here we are at Williams Ledger, and this rain starts, and it starts leaking, and we knew it was leaking. That's why we were going through the procurement process. But then this century rain of a century hits us, and that roof was old and brittle, and I think the weight of that single ply roof, the water, water is very heavy.
Yeah.
A gallon of water weigh like 8 pounds or so, and so it doesn't take a lot of water until you got a lot of heavy. So the heaviness, I think, of that water on that hail damaged roof just started ripping it, and it just ripped it apart. And so inside, you have water everywhere. So you mentioned that you got you a roof, and everything, and you didn't have to go through the governmental auditing practices in order to make sure that, competitive bids and all that was right. You went out and worked with your insurance and got you a roof. And so it's a little more complicated in schools. And what's extremely complicated in schools is this. If I had a barn or Williams Ledger was my personal house, we'd probably approach that thing a whole lot different. But we educate a lot of kids in that building.
Right.
And so we have to do our due diligence, and we have to go beyond our personal safety standards to that of governmental operating standards. And so, we have water restoration people that has been on the scene. They pulled the water out of that building 4 times. And I just, it was unbelievable, the job that they did. But, about the 3rd time that they pulled it out, we were in good shape. But you remember that 4th time was on a Sunday, and I think my water gauge said 8.5 inches. 10 inches on that day of water. So I don't know how much water we got. But that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And so we got water in that building, and so we're remediating it. And our main goal in that whole deal is safety. we've got to make sure that we keep our kids and staff safe, because when we put this building all back together, this isn't something that we want to readdress in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, or 15 years. We want to make sure that it's done right, that the water's remediated. And so basically the inside of Ledger is going to be kind of like a new school. Drywall, ceiling grid, floor tiles. We're gonna approach it as kind of a construction project, and we're gonna go in there and make sure that thing's done right. That's the good thing, is that the future is bright for Williams Ledger. The bad thing is, it's like all construction projects, it inconveniences people, and we know that. And so the things that we're going to have to do is we're not going to be able to start school in that building on time. And we're fortunate here to be able to initiate the plan that we did. We met as a team, and we talked about the logistics of everything that's going on, and we've got space in the district that we're able to educate these kids and do so with as little as interruption as possible, because my number one goal is the safety of the staff and kids. My number two goal is to try to educate these kids with the minimal amount of disruption as possible. And so our K through 3 Williams Ledger kids will go to Fairview Jewel, and our 4th and 5th grade kids from Williams Ledger will go to Martin Walker. And both of those campuses will accommodate, and the principals have all been working together. And here's the deal. Anybody can be a leader in easy times, but when you look out there and you see principals and support staff leading in tough times, because nobody asked for this, and it does your heart good to see those leaders step up and plan and go through the process, that they're doing what they need to do for the needs of kids. And so, from a parent's point of view, you should be getting an email from the district that kind of tells you that we need some information about bus routes. We know the kids that ride the buses from Williams Ledger. We know the parents that do parent drop off and pick up, but you should get an email that kind of outlines these things and gives you more detailed information. I'm not going to go through that with everybody, but in that email there'll also be how you can do kind of like a digital bus registration, so that we can adequately plan for the first day of school and make sure that we're picking up all the kids that need to be picked up. But if you're a parent and your child is going to Fairview, then you can pull up in there, and we want it seamless. Your child is a member of Fairview Elementary, and you can drop your kid off in the drop-off line and pick them up there each evening, and the same thing at Martin Walker. But like I say, as far as the bus situation, we just ask you to help us out. Let us kind of estimate and know what's going on so that we can adequately plan. And I think the big thing in all this is, like I said, nobody asked for this. This was Mother Nature. And so we just ask a little grace on everybody. Nobody wants to be in this situation. And I know everybody's got their sleeves rolled up and they're working hard to accommodate kids. And so let's just make sure that we're kind to each other, we continue to love on each other, and we know that we're all bulldogs and that we're going to make this happen for the kids.
If you're seeing this podcast, either in your podcast feed, on a snippet of it on social media, then that email is in your inbox as long as your email address is updated in Skyward.
Right.
So if your email address is updated in Skyward Family Access, you should have this email. If you did not receive it, please don't hesitate to email the communications office. We'll make sure that you get that information, as long as that applies only for parents of students at Williams Ledger Elementary. Part of that registration process will also include what is their normal mode of transportation in the event that we're able to pivot and go back to normal and kids are able to return to Williams Ledger at some point this school year.
Yeah, and that Curtis, that's hard to predict just from the standpoint of this. I I went to build a track one time, and it was supposed to take 3 months, and it took nearly a year.
Right.
And but because there's so many variables, when you start with construction, you're at a vendor's mercy, and all kind of things can go on, from weather to whatever. And so, we want to make sure that those goals that I had of safety is the main thing there, and that that seamless transition for services for students is the next goal, and then we'll get back to Williams Ledger as soon as we possibly can, and do so within a good time frame.
Obviously, this one campus structural issue is impacting, obviously, not just Williams Ledger, but as we've said, Fairview Jewell and Martin Walker. And so what should parents know who have a kid? Their kid doesn't attend Ledger. Their kid attends Fairview Jewell. They attend Martin Walker. Obviously, their student will be impacted, though. What should they know with the district's response to this, knowing that some of those students are going to be displaced to these other two campuses?
Yeah, seamless transition of services. And so what we want for every child in our school district is when that bulldog comes into our school district, we want to make sure they're loved. And so we're going to continue to operate with those standards and those values. We're going to continue to love on our kids. We're going to continue to treat them just like, they're going to get educated with the teacher that they would have got at Williams Ledger. They're just going to do it in a different place. Yeah. And so this is kind of a mobile year for them. But we want to make sure in all seriousness that they get a top quality education by people who care about them, and that it is a seamless transition of services as possible.
So again, check your email if you're listening or watching this podcast and you're a parent at Williams Ledger Elementary. Please check your email. Those details will be there. And if you are a parent at Williams Ledger and you did not receive that email because your email just changed and you hadn't had a chance to update it in Skyward yet, email the communications office at ccisdcommunications@ccisd.com. We want to make sure that you have the information that you need. The burning question that everybody who sees this is going to ask is, you mentioned construction delays are almost inevitable in the modern landscape. Is there a timeline on when Williams Ledger may be able to reopen to students and staff?
Yeah, the answer is no, because I don't want to start setting timelines out there and parents making plans and knowing that I don't think anything that I've ever built stayed on time.
Right.
And so, I think at this point, let's just focus on taking care of kids, and then we will do the best that we can with the construction process. And when all the boxes are checked, we're going to communicate to parents and push out that information to our community and ensure that there's a transition back over there to utilize that facility. And so I don't think that we want to start putting timelines out knowing that it is way too big of a guess right now to forecast.
Nothing concrete, and we don't know what they're going to find as they continue to take everything out.
Correct.
Looking at that process, displacement of students, displacement of staff, staff members. If you're watching this podcast or listening to it, your principals should have already sent you an email as well on the logistics on your end, especially staff at Williams Ledger, to claim any personal effects that are on the campus. Please check your inbox as soon as you're able to make sure that you've received that communication from your principal. All three principals have reached out to their staffs, and Williams Ledger, including time for picking up or designating and claiming any personal effects. So please check your email for those details as well. What else do people need to understand about this issue at Williams Ledger?
Well, I think the staff, you mentioned the staff, and we want to make sure that our staff knows that we're not just leaving them out there on an island. Something bad happened, and we just kind of said, hey, good luck. Let me know how it works. That's not it at all. That's why we've been meeting, and I've spent time on weekends, and the board president cares about it. She's came and looked at it. The board members want to make sure that we need to do what we need to do to take care of our staff, and it's just that in that letter to our staff, the principals are putting out that we're going to be communicating when we kind of like the Oklahoma land rush. We're gonna make sure that the materials and supplies that are necessary get from Williams Ledger over to Fairview Jewel, that the things are in place that are set up so that teachers can go in there and do the things that they love to do. Elementary teachers love to have beautiful classrooms. They love their
Can
students.
confirm.
So they're going to get in there, and I've seen anything from shiplap, wallpaper to, just beautiful decorations that they do to make those kids feel like, man, this is a warm, loving place to where I can go in there and learn and get opportunities for greatness as I grow. And so we're going to do our part to make sure that that no one is left out on that deal, and that they're not expected to move themselves or anything like that. We're going to make sure that's took care of.
When we look at selecting the campuses and understanding why, I think parents should understand that we were looking for we don't have one campus in Coppers Cove that had the ability to take on 600 to 800 additional students. But these were the two closest that didn't split us to more than two campuses. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things that come into play when you start thinking about why these two campuses. Number one, they can accommodate the students. But even more, I think, than that is that there's people involved. And when you look at people, and you look at Principal Criswell, she's got to go over and work with Principal Shuck. She's got to go over and work with Principal Thompson. And I just really see those three ladies as being very much working together. There's not a doubt in my mind that Dr. Shuck and our new principal, Principal Thompson, are going to welcome these students with open arms. And to me, that's important. The love that we have for kids, it's not seen by those two principals as a burden. It is a burden of love, some would say, but it's we're here to serve kids, and the more the merrier. What a great opportunity for kids from one campus to go to another and meet other kids, meet new kids, because that's what life's all about, is building relationships and networks and interacting. We do a lot of time as a society of sitting on social media and looking at a screen. But that's the power of public education. People say, oh, my kids are educated online. Well, good for your kid. But I'm telling you, don't ever underestimate the power of relationships with kids, because here's the deal. We never know what God has in store for us, or why things happen the way that they happen. But wouldn't it be a special story that a kid from Ledger meets a kid from Jewel, and they become best friends. They go to high school together. They stay best friends. And who knows, maybe 10 years or 20 years down the line, one of those kids absolutely needs the other. Heaven forbid, maybe it's on one of their darkest days, and that kid shows up for them. So when we make friends and we build relationships, that people show up for us on our best days or on our worst days, that's a great power of what we're supposed to be doing as a human. Love thy neighbor. And you, like I say, you never know what God's got planned as far as that happening.
So this is obviously a developing story. for using my old news background, that was how we always referred to it. And so as we have any updates available from now until the day that students and staff are able to return to Williams Ledger Elementary School, we will obviously keep you posted. Hawks Talk newsletter and on this podcast, as well as in your email inbox. And so check your email, and then ccisd.com/superintendent is the shortcut to get to all of that information as well as it evolves. That's where we're at now. Obviously, things will change. School starts August 14th, and things will change and evolve as we go. So that is the issue going on at Williams Ledger, and as we always end each podcast, looking forward, we are just over 3 weeks now from getting students back in classrooms, and I know that's something you've been looking forward to since May 22nd when the school year ended.
It's like Christmas morning. Just excitement for just starting the school year off with hope and opportunities, and that's really the crux of what we do in public education is we sell hope. Yeah. I've said before that we're kind of a hope dealer. Listen to what I'm saying, not dope dealer, hope dealer. And that's really one of the things that we have to do with kids is give them hope that they can reach their dreams and ambitions. And so that's to see them come back in their finest of clothes and the excitement that they have, whether it's a 5-year-old that's being dropped off from their mom their first time, or a senior that's starting their first last, or maybe it's just that first year teacher, that is starting their career off, or maybe it's the teacher that's taught 40 years that's left a legacy. All those things are very special to me, and I can't wait to have them happen here in Cove.
It's going to be a fun fall, and we're excited to see where we go. Obviously, state accountability comes out, and we're one of those few districts, or one, maybe not few, but one of the ones that's not willing to, or not afraid to sit here and say, we're actually excited to see our A through F rating and see where we stand among the competition and see where we can improve.
Yeah, bring it on. I think we've got a horrible test, and we have had for some times. It's not aligned with really what the needs of kids are. They have a special session that started today in Austin, and that's one of the things that they're going to talk about is testing. And but I think we have to be careful. I would highly encourage parents to reach out to their senator. The House is getting it right, but the Senate has not gotten it right. The Senate wants to just have 3-star tests opposed to 1. And I think that we need to reach out to our senator and say, hey, enough with the STAR test. Let's get a test that aligns to the needs of the kids so that it will be more meaningful in that rating system.
So we'll keep you updated on the special session as it pertains to public schools as well here on future episodes. Dr. Hawkins, anything else you want to touch on today?
God bless and go Dogs.
Again, parents, check your email, especially at Williams Ledger Elementary School, as we'll reach out with more details on how your student's school year will start this year. For Dr. Brent Hawkins, Superintendent of Schools, I'm Kurtis Quillen, Director of Communications, saying thanks for joining us on Take 2 with Hawk. Good night, and go Dogs.